part of American life for many of our youth. And, of course, cyberbullying is part of that, what goes on at school, part of it. We're going to be talking today to Joe Wojcik with a book I call Say No to Bullying Today. We're going to get some tips for parents and for students as well. Joe, good to have you with us on the program.
Bob, great to be here.
This is a topic I know that's getting a lot of play, and yet, we have a lot of the programs that have been set up at the schools that they don't seem to be effective.
Well, there are a variety of different programs, and they are effective to a certain degree. Many of the programs have character building exercises and help students deal with building self-confidence, and I think those are great things. One of the things that obviously we can't stop is we can't stop bullying. It's something that's been in our culture for many years and will remain to be a part of it. So the best we can do is really help students and administrators and parents really understand bullying and bully-proof those kids. So if they are targeted, they know what to do.
Yeah, part of that is the students really have to let people know what's going on, don't they?
That's one of the greatest challenges I have. When I'm in the schools, I use the persona of Joe the Biker to present a very empowering performance. And the first thing we talk about, I use Yubbie, Y-U-B-B-I-E, which was my nickname as a child when I was bullied. And I use that as an acronym. And the first one is you have to stand up and tell an adult. And that's one of the hardest things for kids to do, because bullying oftentimes makes them feel bad about themselves. So they need to have courage to go forward and tell an administrator, a teacher, and then obviously go home and tell their parents.
Right. And students that are being bullied, they have some characteristics they start showing, don't they, as far as warning signs?
Well, they do. And there are some obvious ones when a child starts coming home and they have torn clothing, bruises, damaged property. Those are very obvious. But it can become more subtle than that. And that's why we do encourage parents to spend time with their children and to have supper together, because it opens up a dialogue and parents are capable of seeing subtle changes. And some of those changes might be they may not be eating properly. They may have a difficult time falling to sleep. They may be a little bit withdrawn, or maybe they don't bring friends home. I offer a whole bunch of those details in my free Parents Guide to Bullying, which parents can get at my website.
Good, we'll give that out in a few minutes as well, where people can get more information about that. And, it seems, we talk high school kids, but this is really going on at just about all grade levels, isn't it? It
does. Actually, my performances start from kindergarten up. It's really about the kindergarten through third grade is one level of performance, and it's help building a culture of community acceptance and accepting people that are different. In 4th to 6th grade, that's where research tells us bullying really starts. By 7th, 8th grade, junior high school, children have already developed emotionally. And that's why it's more problematic and challenging in those older ages, because by now they already have a particular way of behaving. And we want to stop it before they get that way.
Yeah, exactly. Part of this has to do with the peers and the kids themselves. Don't they have to participate in putting a stop to this when they see it going on, don't they?
When I get into the junior highs and high schools, I point my finger at all the students and say, as I do in my rap song, you are the answer, not the adults. You are. Because it's when students see another individual getting targeted and intervene, or they go and report it to an adult, that's how you stop bullying in the schools. Instead of hanging around with a group that taunts somebody, standing back and say, hey, you know what, this is not acceptable. I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to be a part of your group. So at the end of the day, it's not about us adults. The real answer is the students.
Right, and they have to be very much engaged in that. And, some of this has caused suicides in kids and that kind of thing. And those warning signs are sometimes ignored, too, when kids get so depressed that they attempt or even, contemplate suicide.
They internalize it, and I am one of those when I was in 6th grade, 7th grade, that stood on the floodgates of the Housatonic River and thought about jumping in because I could not stop the bullying that was taking place in my life. And I felt alone. I was desperate. I was in pain. I didn't know what to do. And what we have to realize is that a child's brain is not developed physiologically until they're age 24. So until that point in time, they can't employ logic like an adult does. They can't see down the road and see how this is going to disappear. So they're working with a limited faculty, and that's why oftentimes they resort to a desperate act in order to resolve the problem.
And you must have felt very isolated, didn't really have anybody to talk to, that kind of thing.
I did, and that's exactly what happened. My parents didn't really help me out in the matter. I couldn't tell anybody at school, and that's what happens. As you isolate yourself, you feel very alone. You feel that you're by yourself. And I may add this, when you have that kind of a traumatic experience as a child and you internalize this pain, it stays with you for the rest of your life, and you have to cope with those feelings forever. So that's why another thing I try to communicate to the kids is that they realize that any action that they take upon somebody else not only has a short-term effect, but it also has that long-term effect, because there are no delete buttons or erasers inside of our brains.
Yeah, that's for sure. And as you mentioned, those can go into adulthood.
Yeah, usually statistically, people that are bullied as children have a higher level of substance abuse, drug abuse. They also have a higher tendency of getting depressions and other psychological problems. So nipping it in the bud before it even happens is really what my goal is, using Joe the biker persona in the school, is trying to get everybody to accept people, to be kind to people, and so we don't have to worry about scarring someone forever.
Right, and the communication's got to be a very important part of this communication. Peers helping out, all those kind of things, and certainly the schools have their role too.
Well, of course, and so it starts really from the administration down. When there's a zero tolerance in the schools, and what happens now, because as you mentioned, it's in the media so much, so now individual states have created rules, policies, laws all around bullying, but it still comes down to the enforcement. And I belong to a LinkedIn group of people that were victims as children, and it's amazing because we have parents that get in there all the time talking about how schools whitewash it, how they don't do anything about it. And that's why it's really incumbent upon the parent to accept the responsibility that it's in their hands. And so should their child come and tell them, it's incumbent upon them to be their child's advocate and make sure that the school is doing their job.
Joe Wojcik, thanks for the visit. Good to talk to you. I want to give you your website, which is joethebiker.com. It's got all the info we've been talking about today. Thanks so much for being with us.
Bob, it was my pleasure, and you have a great day.